Hi everyone, this is my Module 2 discussion video. First question is discuss how your vision or view of ethics differ or are similar to those discussed in the text. So I feel like I have a very similar view of ethics based on other classes that I've taken, just based on what I've learned in those. For example, different psychology classes, other communication classes, business classes. It's a very diverse subject and it is applied to a lot of different things, so it comes up a lot. I think a large part of ethics in the world today is based around the idea of cultural relativism, which is mentioned in the text. Defines it as relating ethics to one's cultural or legal system of values, and that standards differ from culture to culture. There are some universal ethical behaviors that nearly everyone follows or thinks that we should follow, but in a sense, I feel that those morals and values are part of more of a universal culture, if that makes any sense. Second question was, discuss how your views of ethics have changed over time. Please discuss both points in time when your view of ethics has changed, specific experiences, jobs, times when you learned things, how they changed, and what you believe your ethical perspective to be now. So I was first introduced to the scholarly idea of ethics around my junior year of high school. It wasn't really something that was talked about before then. If it was, I don't remember. So this first introduction really introduced the entire idea of pathos, logos, and ethos, and I never really understood what was meant by it or what it meant, and I never associated ethos with ethics. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I just never associated it with what it actually means. So thinking about it in terms of morals and values, I thought of it as something that lawyers talk about or something, and I was a lot younger then. Well, a lot younger. So then I started college and I started taking communication classes and psych classes that really began to dive into that subject a little bit more and not just scrape the surface. So I now really have a grasp on what ethics are, and especially going over it in this chapter, and how we can apply them to several different subjects and situations in life. So as for my current perspective, I think that ethics play a really important and almost essential role in how we conduct ourselves in day-to-day life. As a simpler term, we can just think of it as morals and values and what we hold, the standards that we hold ourselves to and that the standards that society holds us to. So the third question, based on the text, what are the most important ethical issues you need to be aware of in the workplace? Why is it important, and what are the implications or consequences of the issue? And how do you know if this issue is being appropriately handled or responded to? So the major ethical issue that I notice in my own life and is really prevalent, especially with this day and age, is social networking use on company time. It presents a lot of risks for both the employee and the employer. I think this is the most prevalent ethical issue that we deal with currently because there isn't that much being done for it. Yes, there are restricted internet connections and monitoring, but it's very difficult to monitor an employee's personal device without invading all of their privacy. I know I wouldn't want to put a monitoring app or program on my personal device. That would just be my personal preference. I know some people would be very open to it, but I just don't like that idea. I'm also guilty of this. I check Facebook at work. I catch myself doing that when I'm not on a break. I'll check Facebook really quick. Sometimes it turns into a 5-minute break. Never on a work computer because there's just too much. There's too much important things in the network that I don't want to risk getting messed up. I realize now that if I'm connected to the school network, it could cause a virus on my phone. It could cause a virus for the network. So I try not to. If I do it, I try not to be connected to the school network, although I probably shouldn't be doing it at all. It also decreases productivity among employees, and I can definitely attest to that because I will check social media and it distracts me, and then I won't get back to work for a little bit. Question 4. Based on reading your case study, what ethical issues do you see present in the case that are also present discussed in the text? Be clear, specific, and cite both the case and text. Identify at least 5. So I'm assuming the case study in question is the one found on page 61. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I think I'm right. So the first couple examples that I want to use are from Redding's Typology of Unethical Communication, found on page 57. The first one that I thought fit this case the most was the destructive unethical communication. The aspect of that stood out the most to me was engages in insults, innuendos, epithets, or derogatory jokes. I think putting something like what Bloomberg Businessweek did for that cover is very derogatory. I don't think that should have been on the cover to express that kind of a merger, especially because those magazines are available in libraries and children can happen upon those, and it just doesn't seem appropriate to me for a sophisticated magazine like Bloomberg Businessweek. I also think that it falls under the deceptive category. Might be a little bit of a stretch, but the aspect that I thought it fit most was sends evasive or deliberately misleading or ambiguous messages. The cover had more than one meaning. The meaning should have just been to express the merger, not to imply inappropriate business deals or inappropriate anything, because it had nothing to do with the situation. I think it was just in bad taste. So then the other example that I'm going to pull from is the idea of a source, a receiver, and the larger society. The explanation for all this can be found on page 54 through 55. The source for this case would be the creators of the cover, so whoever designed the artwork. They had to have bad intentions when submitting for approval. They probably thought it was funny and that it would get people to laugh or bring attention, but I don't think their intentions were very good. The second part of that would be the receiver. In this case, I consider the approval team that sent the cover to print as the receiver. They are the middleman between the creators and the consumers. So I feel that it was their job to evaluate that for what it was and reject it and have them come up with something different. I'm all good for a joke. I love a good joke, but I just don't think that there's a time and a place, and I don't think that this cover was the time or the place. They should have rejected the cover, and they failed to do so. So in that way, I feel that they were unethical in their communicating of the cover. And then the third part of that would be the larger society, which would be the readers. Some of them did exactly what they needed to do and express the issues that were present by sending in comments and trying to bring awareness to the fact that people were not happy with it. Others did not. So I think the people that didn't express the issue with it or didn't see an issue with it maybe didn't act as ethically as others. But I guess that's up to personal opinion. Finally, question 5. Applying the text, how might the ethical issues be addressed in such a complex case? I believe the editors of the magazine should be held accountable, as well as the creators of the cover art. I think reminding them of what is appropriate and ethical and what is not would be a good course of action. I think they need a little bit of a refresher course. Maybe read the chapter of this textbook on ethics. I just don't think it was appropriate what they did, and I think that somebody should be held accountable for it. Not necessarily the magazine as a whole, but as the people who approved of what went out. There are a lot of people that didn't have control over what went out, so I don't think that the whole magazine should be held accountable. But I do think that like the CEO and the approval team and the creators should definitely be held accountable. And I think the CEO should probably make a statement. I don't know if he did in this case. It was a few years ago. I was too young to know what was going on. hopefully he would make a statement in support of the readers and their views on the cover, and not from the creator's standpoint. Anyway, that's all I have. So I hope you guys have a good week. Stay safe in this weather, and have a good rest of your week.